So this client reached out to me regarding this amazing Spartan and the Punisher chairs that is in need of a good restoration. His friend made it for him years back, and he did not want to just restore it, but bring it back to life again and make it new. There are a few things he wanted to do, and in this video I will show you the process of what I did to bring it back to life again. So every story comes to where it needs to be deassembled in order to get it to the perfect place where it needs to be. So I'll be taking everything apart where I can take apart. I'll still keep the head and the Spartan head and the Punisher head as is, but the rest is coming out. Trying with my drill to get the screw out, but I was struggling, so I used a nail just to dig in there and try and see what I can find, and at the end it was a piece of paper. So this entire chair is basically made out of some structural timber and then also from pallet wood. If you're a hobbyist and you want to experiment on making furnitures and stuff like that, pallet wood is normally the way to go to actually start a project and use that. This project is one of the things that you are going to need either a belt sander or some sanding way to do this thing, because belt sander I would recommend get one. If you don't have one, get one. It will make your life easy. I don't want to put it through my bench planer because that will take off a lot of material. The belt sander, it takes off just the amount that you need. So for one of the chairs, it was really bitten by a dog at the back and at the sides, and I really wanted to just take this and make this new, because you can't take off too much of the material with a belt sander. It's gonna you're gonna sit with very little material left. So I used one of my big planks that I had left, and I cut off a piece of size that will fit the two pieces of legs in it. I'm brushing it through my planer, getting everything smoothed out and flat. This piece of material that I had left is called poplar, and as you can look, there's beautiful grain to it that I really like. Poplar wood is not part of your pine collection of wood. This is a much harder wood, and even though it is easy to handle, to cut, and it will not dull your blades that quick. So it's part of a softwood, but it's also classified as a hardwood. So what I did is I tried to keep the design as what it is. So basically I'm taking the old leg pieces and I'm just marking it roughly with a pencil, just making my marks on the piece of wood that I've got, and then going ahead and just cutting it with a jigsaw. I don't want to bore you too much with my jigsaw skills, but here's my two pieces that I will be using for my legs. So moving on to my armrests, I marked out about a 5 centimeter radius, because that's more or less the radius I've got. The front piece is about 100 mils, so I just went to 50 millimeters. So then I'm using my belt sander to get the shape that I want, and this took some time because it's slowly but surely going across here, going across there, trying to get this away, going to that away. Shaping is a very interesting method of getting that round piece curve look in the front. So went around, sanded everything off, as you can see, and that is looking beautiful. So I just wanted to do extra, and I'll use my router with a little round of a bit, just running it across on the sides just to break that edge. You don't want that edge to be so sharp that you could cut yourself with it. While I was still busy with my little palm router, I decided let me do the legs as well and give it also a break edge look to it. And I did that on all my pieces as well, just to break that edge, to give it a nice roundish feel to it, to the wood. So I decided to hop on to the other chair as well and get everything taken off. So screw all the seating place and everything off, take everything apart, just so I can also just get going with that chair as well. My love for woodwork came at a very early age, where I wanted to do things like this, but I never got around to. At school where I was at, it started off that they had woodworking classes, and then they took that out of the curriculums. Only when I became an adult I really dived into this woodworking thing. My first project that I did was basically a coffee table from pallet wood, and the only tools that I had was a handsaw and a drill. That's it. I didn't have anything else. I literally just took a handsaw, cut my pieces that I wanted to use, and screwed them in together. It was a really wonky but amazing project that I did, and it learned me so much. From then on I created many more projects, and where all my tools started to accumulate over the years, and I've learned things. So in 2019 I tried to start up a business, had a partner, tried to get everything sorted, where we are going ahead and we are making furnitures and we are building cupboards and things like that for different clients. And at the end of the day, when COVID hit, we had to close down and we were stuck doing nothing. So I had an opportunity that I can actually work for a company that does woodworking, the installations of cabinetry, and also of even making other furniture pieces, which was amazing. That gave me also the understanding of woodworking even more. There's so much that I've learned from that job that I had. Right, getting back to the video. So I'm using 372 epoxy. This is a 2-component epoxy. So the one white part is it's a mixture of 2-to-1 ratio basically. So it's one part of the small can, that is the yellow part, the activator, and then the epoxy side is the white one, where when you mix the two together, after a good, say about 24 hours, it will be solid hard rock. So if you want to join boards together or anything like that, this is also a great way to use it, but it's also meant for a filler. So I'm filling all the gaps of the nail marks that was in pallet wood, and I just want to get that thing smoothened out. So back at it again of sanding my life away. This is the Spartan backrest. So I'm just coming because this pieces of wood has really been warped and been crooked and stuff like that, and I just wanted to get it as nice and smooth as possible. So I'm just sanding it down. Eventually I'm sanding even more and more and more and more and more as the time goes on. So I wanted to go ahead and just also replace the backing of this Spartan backrest with another set of ply. So I marked that out, and then I'll be going ahead and just taking the jigsaw and cutting that out. So what I did is basically just ran it through, cutting on the line with the jigsaw, and finally I'm seeing how this thing is taking shape, which is amazing to see the results at the end. When you are working with a jigsaw, make sure that you do switch it off when you are moving from one board, or twisting the board to another shape. What I did, if you can see, one of my fingers did get cut in that thing because I tried to get the dust off and then I got hurt doing that. So going back to the belt sander, I'm sanding everything off. As you can see, I'm running not only just up with the grain, I'm also going across the grain, so it takes off most of the materials that is not it's very imperfected. So taking that off helps also when you go back to sanding with the grain. It's helping that flow of grit go through, and it gives that clean finish. So going back to the original Spartan helmet backrest, I'm taking all the screws out that is on the back that holds the front piece to it. Now I'm just trying to get all that stuff out, and it really, I was so afraid to get this stuff out that I might just break the actual face of it. And eventually I realized I just needed to dig in and make sure that I can get into that. I tried with a hammer trying to get the stuff out, and I realized the stuff was actually glued on at the end. So taking that time to take that apart little bit by little bit and placing it one side, making sure that I keep the flow of where what is going, and that's basically what I did. After I removed all these parts, I went also back to the belt sander and just sanded the back pieces of that face off so I can get it smooth. So preparing this back piece, I went and I sprayed a black paint at the back so that when the other pieces go back on, that the black will pop out and you will see basically the inside of the helmet, where it's really nice. So I painted this whole thing with a black paint. I did a cuff coats on this, which eventually came out super nice. So adding this panels back again, I really put a lot of glue on it, and you can see, just to give it a good amount of place where it can actually stick. And I also went and just put some brad nails in it to keep it in place. After the finish, it came out really looking good. So as I was busy with this backrest, I really think about these lines that are in there. I thought, let me just rather use my 372 epoxy and fill that up so that it can have a nice smooth finish, a complete flush finish in the front as far as possible. Obviously with a pallet wood front piece, there is a lot of imperfection to it, but you want to give that a little bit of a character. So I filled up these holes with the epoxy, and afterwards came back when it was dry and then would sand it again.
So one little thing, because of the glue up that I did, and taking everything, putting it kind of back to making it as flush as possible, I was sitting with this little lip which is not really looking nice. So what I'll be using is my trim router, and I'll just flip this thing around and then just taking off this little sides just to get it flush and even.
So working with wood, obviously there's the wood movement that you need to consider and how you can work a way around it so that it can be in a place where you still get the best results out of it. So always when you're working with, especially with a reclaimed timber, that there's always a bit of a wop to it or a shrink to it that you need to go back and just get that sorted out. After everything is set and dry, I go back, belt sander, heavy grid, and taking off as much as that I can to get it as smooth and flat as possible. As you can see, a lot of sanding always goes into woodworking. So I would go back and use a palm sander, my Bosch palm sander, and I just go and just clean up most of the grid lines of the belt sander, and also just edging over the sides so it doesn't chip away when you're working with it or sitting on it, that it might hook to your clothes and stuff like that. So you go around your corners to break that wood pieces. Onto the skull backrest, I use a white spray just to paint that up after covering the eyes and nose parts of the skull, and then I did a couple of coats on this thing, and as you can see, taking that and peeling that tape off really brings out the skull effect to this whole project. After taking a lot of time to tape it up and put newspapers around it, I get going on the eyes and nose of this, and I sprayed it with a couple of coats of the black. After everything was set and dried, I started to peel off the layers that I've put on, just to see how amazing this results came out. I did go back afterwards with a black spray and a small paintbrush just to touch up on a few things, which you can also do. With the backrest for the Spartan helmet, I use a white primer because of the copper color that I need to paint onto this. I used a primer base from Rust-Oleum. It's an amazing product. It gives you a perfect look. Now moving on to the copper color that will actually be the final color that goes on. I spray the sides and I finish up with this project very nicely, and it came out looking super good. I did a couple of coats on this as well, just to get that copper color popping. While waiting for all the other paints to dry that goes to the backrest, I went back and I decided, let me put the other chair's framework back together. So I'm putting back the framework and gluing up as much as possible, because you want to have everything super tight and super glued up at the end, where it doesn't move, it doesn't shift. When I look back on how I started and how my love for woodworking has grown, I still enjoy every moment of it. There is not a moment that goes by that I will say, I don't like restoring furniture. I don't like building things from wood. And my hope is that while you're watching this, that you'll be inspired to go out and do the impossible. Don't back down from a challenge. Take the time, use the opportunity, learn from it, and grow. So just a side note, when you're applying your glue, there's always glue squeeze out. I use a wet rag to go back and just to take off all the unnecessary glue squeeze outs that's there, that you don't have to go back and take it out with a chisel or something else. I wanted to make sure that where all the screws that you see visibly will be countersinked into the wood, where I can take dowels afterwards and place it in that places as well, so it hides all the wood screws that goes in, and it makes it neat. Like I've mentioned previously, I've basically glued up every part that I can find where it touches another piece of wood where I have to put a screw in. I glue that up to make sure that everything is solid and nice and neat, using my brad nailer just to keep it in place, and then afterwards coming and putting in screws. And once that is done, adding the dowels into it. As soon as all the wood dowels are in and there's glue in it as well, I've come back with just a normal saw. I know this is not probably the correct saw that you can use. You get other types of saws as well, but I just want to show you that you can use what you have in your workshop, and just go afterwards and use your sander to sand everything flush and neat, and that gives it also a clean finish look. So when I got the chairs, this client wanted to spice it up and not keep it just a pine color, but bring it up into a dark, rich tone color. So I'm putting on a dark stain to it. Onto the final stages of putting on the paints is I'm using this clear varnish. It's an AC clear varnish, which means the AC stands for add catalyst, so it's a hardener type of paint. You add that on, within 20 minutes you have dry paint ready to go for a second coat. Once everything is dry, I can come and I can put the backrest in, screw that in properly, that everything sits and lines up finished and flush, and it looks really amazing. If you loved and love seeing stuff restored, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment.